ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. So, in our previous class, we were describing the different visions Sri Ramakrishna had during his sadhana period. And the vision that was described was that of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came with his companion Nityananda. They were very close to each other, and both Chaitanya and Nityananda, they worked as a pair. That is why they always call them, other name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Gauranga. So he was called as Gaur, and they were lovingly referred to as Gaur Nitai. So they were always complementing each other, and the whole movement was based on the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda. So there was a vision, Bhairavi Brahmani. The vision which Sri Ramakrishna had was much before Bhairavi Brahmani appeared in Dakshineshwar. She was well versed in the Vaishnava scriptures. So all the different visions and all the different signs that were seen in Sri Ramakrishna's, especially his body, his burning sensation, etc. So she knew what was the main reason. It was these visions that caused all the disturbances in his physical body. And she used to suggest remedy for that. So Sri Ramakrishna, like a small child, used to ask her, see, my body is burning. Then she suggested this was observed as per the scriptures. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was in Mahabhava, he experienced that. So the remedy for that was to apply sandal paste on the body, and immediately they say the burning sensation from the body of Sri Ramakrishna stopped. So that is how Bhairavi Brahmani came at the right time to verify, because Sri Ramakrishna wanted to get it verified, not because he did not believe in that. He obviously, all the visions that he had, they all confirmed with the scriptures. But since he wanted a competent authority, one who has studied the Vaishnava scriptures, the Tantras, and Bhairavi Brahmani was one of the greatest scholars. So she came after Sri Ramakrishna had a particular vision, which he is describing now. So one day he described the vision which we discussed last time. He saw that from his body two boys of fair complexion came out. In a vision, he saw very clearly in a subtle form. Both of them were dancing to the kirtan, which typically the Chaitanya's followers do. And there was melodious singing of birds, and they were dancing in the forest. And then they wandered far off, and then again they came and they re-entered the master's body. So the impact of the vision was so strong. He wanted to know who are these small young boys and what is the meaning of this vision. So there was nobody he could ask. Others would have made fun. Hriday would not have believed. So anyway, after a year and a half, Bhairavi Brahmani comes, and as soon as he hears from her that she was well versed in the scriptures, the Vaishnava scriptures, which and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tradition, as well as the Tantra tradition, he asks her what was the meaning of that vision. They were dancing to the kirtan. They uh, came out of this body and then they re-entered. Then she said, "My child, your vision was true." She was much more older than Sri Ramakrishna. So she says, "My child, your vision was true. This time in this life, Chaitanya has been manifested in Nityananda's body." Both Chaitanya and Nityananda, who came as separate beings in the previous incarnation, they have come and dwelling inside you. That is why you had the vision. So when later Hriday described that conversation to Swami Shardanand, obviously they were not coming to Sri Ramakrishna at that time. They came much later in 1882 onwards, from 1882 onwards. So Brahmani recited the two verses to indicate to Sri Ramakrishna that what I am saying is based on these two verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Advaita Acharya, putting his arms around the neck of the Advaita Acharya, that is Nityananda, Chaitanya repeatedly used to say to him, and it is recorded in his biography, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's biography, it is recorded. He says, uh, the English translation of the Bengali original is, I shall enact my wonderful divine play once more. My form will be manifested as bliss during Kirtan. That is why we find in this life, Sri Ramakrishna used to be, was very fond of Kirtan. Sometimes he also participated. That reminded the Vaishnava devotees of their Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And many times, when he saw certain people, for example, Master Mahashay, when he saw him for the first time, he saw him, he said, you are the same person whom I saw in a vision who was dancing in that group of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was doing Kirtan, you are one of them. So he could recognize the past or the previous life of all these great, and he also saw some other people, other devotees, householder devotees, who were part of the Chaitanya Sankirtan group. Anyway, Gaur is the another name for Chaitanya, as I said. Gaur is still enacting his divine play, only, but only a fortunate few can see it. That means only a fortunate few, like Bhairavi Brahmani, could understand that this is the same play which Gauranga or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had promised that he will be coming back again and again till all the devotees or bhaktas, they are filled with devotion. So the same kirtan which they used to sing, the Vaishnavas used to sing, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to sing when when they had incarnated. Sri Ramakrishna also had it sung, either he sang it himself or there were others who, when they sang, he used to get up and start dancing. So once the Swami Shardanji says, when we heard it from Hriday, still we wanted to hear from the master's own mouth words to confirm whether what Hriday was saying was true. Because the master was alive, why not ask him directly? So once when we asked the master about this vision, of course Shardanji had not started writing the book, this Leela Prasanga, which he started writing up much 24 years after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna. He passed away in 1886. In 1910, when he built a Udbodan, the building of Udbodan, he had to take a loan to build a house for Holy Mother, who didn't have a house till then, her own house. Of course, it was there in Jairambati, but and also Kamarpukur she could go and stay. But in Calcutta, there was no house. She used to stay either at Balram's home. Sometimes she even stayed with Sister Nivedita in her school, or the Bospada Lane house, which later on became Sister Nivedita's school. So many places she used to stay, but she had no place of her own. So Shardanji said, now it enough is enough. Let us not uh, make Holy Mother stay in other people's house, though they were all great devotees. Why should she stay? So he decided to take the risk, took a big loan, uh, at tremendous risk. He was not earning, but still he took a loan. And he said, I will repay this loan by writing this Leela Prasang, publishing it, and whatever income you get from by selling those books, the profit will go towards repaying the loan. That is how he repaid the loan. So, Master Mahashay, not Master Mahashay, Swami Shardananji was very keen to know about this. Not because he wanted to write the book, but he was keen because he heard from Hriday that Bhairavi Brahmani said this. So they asked the master about his vision, this vision. He replied, I truly did have that vision. And the Brahmani did make that remark when she heard of it. But see, Sri Ramakrishna is not asserting that what she said, you judge for yourself. That is his idea. He says, but how can I tell what it really meant? When she said, she quoted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, no doubt, that he will come again and enact himself. But I cannot tell. I just tell you what vision I had. Now, the interpretation I leave to the whole world. So, how can I tell you what this vision meant? However, after hearing about those visions, it seems to us now, Shardanji is saying, that from then on he was aware. I mean, after he had that vision 1.5 years earlier, he had a feeling that he was aware that a being well known to the world from time immemorial was living within his body and his mind in order to fulfill a specific purpose. As it has been discussed earlier, all the previous incarnation, including Rama, they very often forgot that they were divine. They wept, for example, when Sita was abducted by Ravana. Rama was feeling helpless. Because when they take a human body, that is what was elaborately discussed. Whether it is Chaitanya, whether it is Buddha, they also feel the same. Uh, uh, they also face the same problems as human beings. They feel hunger, they feel thirst, they fall a prey to diseases. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also suffered so many diseases. So all the incarnations, no, though all everything is not recorded, we only see the divine aspect of the incarnation, but they had a human aspect. They also cried in grief when they lost somebody near and dear. So he also, from time to time, people like Bhairavi Brahmani would remind him that you are not an ordinary person. You belong to the same stuff as the previous incarnations like Chaitanya and all. See, this is how it is telling. Those experiences, your experiences. And then the master came to know that slowly that there was a specific purpose which through which Ma Kali of Dakshineshwar was working out his body to fulfill a certain purpose. And that purpose was made clear to him. Whenever he used to go to the Divine Mother and ask for certain things, instructions, she used to give it to him. When Totapuri came, Bhairavi discouraged him. She said, you don't follow this path of Advaita, otherwise your devotion will suffer. So he, like a child, he believed Bhairavi and he went and asked the Divine Mother. But he would not do anything without getting clear instruction from the Divine Mother. Right from his first vision onwards, anything that he wanted to know, he referred to the Divine Mother and she gave a direct answer. So there was no need for an intermediate guru or person. But these gurus did come and he did give them respect because he knew that for smaller things, he doesn't have to go to the Divine Mother. He can get all the instructions, and they confirmed it that no, this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to experience. So there is truth in the saying when others say people like Vaishnavacharan and others who came before Bhairavi Brahmani came, they also had mentioned certain divine signs. So, though he was aware of his divinity now and then, or he knew there was a purpose with which his, he has been born in this incarnation, but that specific purpose was known, but now and then he would forget. So, also the Holy Mother. The extraordinary insights about his personality that he was experiencing at that time eventually convinced him that the one who was born as the spirit of Ramachandra in Ayodhya and then as Krishna in Vrindavan to establish religion in previous ages, the same spirit has been reborn in a new body as Ramakrishna to demonstrate a new way to reach true religion to not only to India but the entire world. We have heard him say again and again, this is not from Hriday's mouth, but his Swami Shardanji himself heard this from the master. He who came as Rama and as Krishna is now come in this body, pointing to himself. And then he used to add, Sri Ramakrishna, that as a king sometimes disguises himself to visit his capital, so this time the king has come secretly to the world. Now, next, Swami Shardanji still doesn't let it go. He doesn't expect the readers to just believe in what is being said here. So he says, if we want, he says, he gives the title, The Master's Visions Never Proved False. That is another test. If you have a vision now and once in a while the vision proves to be false, then you don't believe that person. But here, whatever vision he had, whatever he had predicted, for example, he said, others said, he warned him again and again, don't ride the horse. He was very fond of horse riding, not just because of utility, he could go in a horse carriage. But Adarsen was wanted to flaunt his position as a deputy magistrate in the British government. So, though he was a great devotee, he would not listen to Sri Ramakrishna and continued riding the horse. And one day he had a fall and he died. Accidental fall. The horse became a bit wild and just threw him off the off his back, and then he died. So whatever vision he had, whatever premonition for example, he saw Rani Rasmani when she was sick. He remarked to Hriday, "Oh, see, Rani is going away. She has been taken away." And then they get the news that she had indeed passed away in her house. So also Mathur Babu and all, he had premonition. Akshay, his own nephew, who died. So all these things, that is why whenever Sri Ramakrishna said something, not only Swami Vivekananda, everyone knew that if it has come out of the master's mouth, because no untruth will come out of his mouth. So he says, if we want to verify the authenticity of the vision, which we have just discussed now, there are no means other than believing what the master himself said to the close devotees. He didn't publicize it, but to some close devotees. However, we can confirm the authenticity of some other visions that he experienced during our time because we were witness. Such visions occurred almost daily in the master's life, and his skeptical English educated disciples, which of course they were English educated but they were Indian, had to admit defeat when they tested the vision's reality. Most of them were dumbfounded. Although many such examples have been mentioned elsewhere in the book, that will be mentioned in so many places, but he says we shall narrate only one for the satisfaction of the reader. So that is why Shardanji says, the example was the master's vision during Durga Puja at Surendranath Mitra's house in 1885. This was a verified vision. It was the autumn of 1885 and everyone in Calcutta was charged with enthusiasm during the festivities surrounding the annual Durga Puja. The master's devotees felt a joyful current in their hearts, but a great obstacle prevented them from expressing it. Their fountain of head of joy, the master, was now suffering from terminal cancer and was seriously ill. Nearly a month earlier, the devotees had rented a two-storied house at Shampukur in Calcutta. This house is still there, it is with the mission. But he was, for better treatment of his throat ailment, he was requested to leave Dakshineshwar, though Sri Ramakrishna did not want. Somewhere nearer Calcutta or the heart of Calcutta where good doctors were there. So they shifted the master, they had rented a house instead of staying in his room in Dakshineshwar, which was not also weather-wise it was not good. There was wind and other things. So they wanted a quiet place in Calcutta. So they chose a wrong place, which Thakur did not like. But anyway, he stayed for some time, which is known as Shampukur Bati. The house, it is with the mission now. Before he moved to Kashipur, where he passed away, where he entered Mahasamadhi, the previous house was known as Shampukur. And he had just moved there. And Mahendralal Sarkar, a well-known physician, was trying his utmost to cure the master with appropriate medicine and a proper diet. But so far, he was, as you all know, he was an allopathic doctor, but he converted to homeopathy because he and was one of the most famous homeopathic doctors of Calcutta. So he was a well-known physician, knowing both allopathy and homeopathy, and he tried to cure the master. He never gave up. He said, "No, I will somehow cure him." So, but but so far the disease had not subsided, but rather was getting worse. Householder devotees were coming to Shampur every morning and evening to make all arrangements necessary for the master's care. Many of the young students engaged in serving the master went home only for meals, and some stayed with the master 24 hours a day. If the master talked too much or went into samadhi frequently, his blood would flow upwards and aggravate the disease by constantly irritating the wound in his throat. So the doctor advised him to control himself in both respects. Don't talk too much and don't go into samadhi now and then. Master tried to follow his doctor's instructions. At least he would not talk, but would frequently violate them unintentionally. Because he had neglected his body for most of his life, considering it to be just a cage of flesh and bone, and was slowly withdrawing his mind from it. He was now incapable of regarding it as a precious thing, as ordinary people do. Whenever there was any spiritual discussion, he would join in and effortlessly go into samadhi as before, forgetting his body and the doctor's instructions. In addition, people who had never seen him before started visiting him. When he saw their sincere longing, he could not restrain himself. He would give them special instruction, spiritual instruction, in a very, very feeble voice. He was so weak. Observing the master's zeal and joy in this respect, some devotees were relieved and began to consider his disease to be ordinary and easily curable. Some even tried to console others, saying that the master had temporarily assumed his disease in order to bestow grace upon the newcomers and to spread spirituality amongst many people. So, this is what some of the devotees believed. Nobody was ready to believe that he would die of this disease. Dr. Sarkar would visit the master daily in the morning or in the afternoon to examine him. For this reason, they had shifted to Calcutta near his house and prescribed proper medicine and diet. Afterwards, he would become so overwhelmed as he listened to the spiritual conversation of the master that he could not leave even after 2 3 hours. He was a busy doctor, but he did not bother about his practice and used to always stay here. Sometimes he would ask the question after question of the master, then listen to his wonderful responses. After passing a long time in this manner, he would regretfully tell Master, "Today I have made you talk for a long time. That was wrong on my part. However, if you talk to no one else today, no harm will come to you. You see, there is so much charm in your words that I spent 2 or 3 hours with you, neglecting my profession. I don't know how time flies. Again, I caution you, please don't talk to anyone else for a long time. Only when I come, you may talk, and that will not do you any harm." The doctors and the devotees laughed. Obviously, he was joking. Not that whether he talks to him or somebody else, disease would definitely aggravate. Now, what something strange happened. Surendranath Mitra, whom the master sometimes called Suresh Mitra, had arranged Durga Puja that year in his residence at Simla, which is not very far from Swami Vivekananda's house. Previously, his family had celebrated this worship every year, but it had been discontinued after an unfortunate incident occurred. After that mishap, no brother of the household dared to perform the worship. Somehow, sometimes, when people regularly perform these pujas, something they think, it may be a superstition, but they think we did something wrong when we did the puja. We did not do it or we were careless. So this mishap happened. So it may be just a coincidence, but it happened. And they stopped it. They said instead of doing this puja incorrectly, even if it is not intentional, it is better not to do rather than do it unless you are sure that you will be perfect. So, no brother of his dared to perform. It was a family puja, so all brothers would join. But if anyone tried, others would stop him. Said, no, you can't do it. But Surendra was such a strong devotee who drew his strength from his faith in the master that he was not afraid of any misfortune. He said, you do whatever you like, but I am going to do the puja. And once he resolved to do something, he paid no heed to anyone's pleas or objections. That year, all the members of the household tried in many ways to stop him from performing the puja, Durga Puja, but they failed. Surendra received the master's approval, brought an image of Mother Durga, arranged for her worship at his own expense. The brothers would not contribute, obviously. They were not in favor of starting it. On this joyful occasion, however, Surendra was very sad because the master's illness prevented him from attending the celebration. He had, as you know, earlier he had attended some pujas which were held in some other devotee's house. So he was happy that he has started the puja, but he was a little upset or little sad that the master would not be able to attend. So a few days before the worship, a couple of Surendra's relatives fell ill, and all the brothers they blamed Surendra. Said, see, we told you, you started the puja, we had stopped that because of some misfortune. Now, even before the puja has begun, some of the our relatives have fallen ill. So that is why you have made a mistake. The whole family was displeased with him. Unperturbed, Surendra began the worship of the Divine Mother with great devotion and invited all his brother disciples. The first day of the worship, the Saptami Puja had passed. Actually, it is Shashti. They write here. Saptami is not the first day. Normally, they start with the Shashti, sixth day, the main puja. Though Navratri is 9 days, but the puja begins on the sixth day. So, anyway, the Saptami puja, he says, uh, was done, had passed on Ashtami, that is the eighth day, which is the most important day, the auspicious second day of the worship. Many devotees gather around the master at Shampukur house and were enjoying spiritual conversation and devotional singing. This was happening separately. In Shampukur house, he was there, and the puja was going on in Suren Mitra's house. Dr. Sarkar arrived at 4 p.m. And after a while, Narendra began to sing devotional songs. Obviously, those who were close to the master, they didn't go for the puja. They would rather stay with the masters and nurse him. All were enchanted as they listened to his sweet, heavenly voice. Naren was singing some songs on the Ashtami day. In a low voice, the master explained the import of that song to the doctor who was seated nearby. And sometimes he went into ecstasy for short periods. Narendra singing means he would obviously go into ecstasy. The spiritual atmosphere caused some devotees, even some devotees, to lose outer consciousness. The impact of Sri Ramakrishna Samadhi was felt by other devotees. The whole room was vibrating with an intense current of bliss. It was 7:30 p.m. when the doctor realized the lateness of the hour. All were so engrossed in Narendra singing. He was also lost in the singing. Sri Ramakrishna was forgot about his pain and other things. He was also in bliss. Then he embraced Narendra like an affectionate father, our Dr. Sarkar. He was quite old. He was quite older than Swami Vivekananda. They were young boys. So he just felt very happy, and like an affectionate father, embraced him and then said, "I'll have to go now." And he took leave of the master. The master also got up smiling and suddenly went into deep samadhi. The devotees began whispering, "This is the auspicious time of Sandhi Puja." You see, Sandhi Puja is the auspicious time when the puja has to be done, Ashtami Puja. From Saptami to Ashtami, the transition is supposed to be very auspicious. That is when the Mahishasura was killed, actually, by Devi Durga. Durga killed at that particular time, the Sandhi period. So that is considered to be a very auspicious time. And at that time, Sri Ramakrishna, because that the time would be announced in the different panjikas and all the almanacs. So the time was known to everyone. Then they said that, see, Sri Ramakrishna has entered Samadhi exactly at that time. So that is why the master has gone into Samadhi, but they didn't know the real reason. It is amazing that the master has become absorbed in divine ecstasy at this auspicious moment without knowing the time of Sandhi Puja. Obviously, he had not asked, neither they had told him, but there was no Durga Puja nearby. After half an hour, the master Samadhi ended and the doctor left. He sat there. He was also shocked. Many times, as you know, when he was new, he used to examine the heart and pulse and eyes just to see if there are any signs of life. There was none. But this time, of course, he enjoyed that state because it defied all medical knowledge that he had. Medical knowledge could not explain how can a person live without breathing, without the heart beating for such a long time and then come back to normal consciousness. Anyway, he observed the samadhi for almost half an hour, and they were all spellbound. Some of them themselves went into that high state. Others, those who were great devotees. The master, when he came down, told the devotees what he had seen in Samadhi. Obviously, when he goes to Samadhi and when he came down, he had a vision. Either while going into Samadhi, he had a vision, or while coming down. So he would explain that vision to the devotees. So he said, "You know what I saw? A luminous path opened from this place," that means where he was standing, "to Surendra's house," that is, who was a great devotee. "I saw the presence of the Divine Mother in the image." He even saw the image, though he was present in a different house. He saw the image. And she had been evoked by Surendra's devotion. So he says the mother would have been very pleased. Otherwise, why will I see that light? Why will I see the divine image? Divine Mother, live Divine Mother, I saw in his house. A ray of light gleamed forth from her third eye, that is here on the, even like Shiva's third eye. Rows of lamps were lit before the goddess in the worship hall. In the courtyard, Surendra was crying piteously, "Mother, mother, all of you, go to his house right now. When he sees you all there, he will regain his peace of mind." So Sri Krishna is witnessing all these things. The vision has, in his vision, he has gone following that ray of light. So the devotees immediately went there to confirm, did he really have this experience when he was in that state? When they asked him, so Narendra and others bowed down to the master and then immediately left for Surendra's house. When they asked him, they learned that two rows of lamps had in fact been lit in the worship hall, just as described by the master. So the vision he saw was not imaginary, it was really there, Surendra's house. So, in a subtle way, he has gone there. Then, and when the master had been in Samadhi, Surendra was indeed seated in the courtyard facing the image, just as he had described, crying loudly, "Mother," and "Mother, mother," like a boy for about an hour. So you see, when he was crying, Sri Krishna could see the exact, through his vision, he could see what exactly was going on in Suryan's house. The amazed devotees were thrilled with joy when they found that the master's vision during Samadhi was so consistent with the actual external events. So, otherwise, there were some other examples which Swami Shardanji describes. How Rasmani herself, Rani Rasmani, was such a great devotee of the master, and Mathur Babu, Mathurnath Vishwas, they tested the master because they misunderstood him. Right in the beginning, they had their own doubts, though they had a great reverence for him. But some of the visions and some of the experiences, Mathur Babu especially, would not believe. So, sometime during the first 4 years of the master sadhana, Rasmani and Mathur thought, see, the first impression was that he is a good person, very holy person, and definitely is a very simple, humble, and a devoted person. But he has developed a mental disorder because of, and mostly the reason they attribute is celibacy. Because the unbroken celibacy, if you follow, some of the stupid doctors would say that celibacy is not good and that can lead to madness. So they thought that was the cause of his spiritual unrest, which they thought was madness. This I'm talking of the early days of his sadhana, not the visions that he had after that. This was when Rasmani and Mathur had just employed him, or he had just started staying in Dakshineshwar, and he used to have these different moods. So they thought, because he is not married, let us marry him off, or at least uh, not marry. He was married to Ma Sharda Devi, but she was living in Dakshineshwar. So they thought, because he is living a life of a brahmachari, though he is married, because of his celibacy, these things are there. So they thought he would regain his health or his mental state if his chastity was broken. So they engaged some prostitutes like Lakshmi Bai and other beautiful prostitutes to tempt him. First at Dakshineshwar, then in a house at Mechua Bazaar. The master told us that when he saw those women, he saw only the Divine Mother in them shining and said, Mother, Mother, and he lost his outer consciousness. Then they were also very remorseful. They scolded Mathur Babu, why have you brought this holy man here? We will suffer because of that. You should not have brought him. So anyway, he lost consciousness there also. And as a tortoise draws its limbs inside its shell, so the master's the tendencies for sex that you have, shrank inside his body, and he would not feel anything. Witnessing this amazing phenomena and charmed by his childlike nature, these young women felt maternal affection in their hearts, though they were prostitutes. They felt immensely guilty for attempting to break his continence, and with tearful eyes begged his forgiveness. Afraid that they had committed great sin by trying to tempt him, they bowed down to him again and again and immediately left the place. So, uh, as I said the earlier paragraph when we were reading, Durga Puja normally starts on the sixth day of the bright lunar fortnight and it continues for 4 days. Saptami Puja is the first main puja, which is on the next day. Sixth days it is Bodhan, just initiating the puja. And then comes Ashtami, Navami, and Dashami Puja. So it's normally for 4 days. So now, Sri Ramakrishna's, the master at Kamarpukur. This is the next chapter. I think we have some time. So in Kamarpukur, the master's mother and brother were extremely worried that he had given up his priestly duties. Priestly duties were given up because he told Mathur Babu that I am not going to look after the ornaments of the. You have put so many ornaments, and if somebody comes and steals them, I can't put my head or be busy with just guarding these ornaments. They are not. They are useless for me. So I would not care if somebody took. So if you appoint somebody to look after the jewels, I will do puja. Otherwise, I will not do puja. I can't take the responsibility of guarding this. Then my mind will be on the on the jewelry, rather than on the mother. So he had practically given up the priestly duties. Then they had to convince him that you start your puja, because Rani Rasmani liked the way he did puja. So scarcely at 2 years elapsed since Ram Kumar's death, the elder brother of Sri Ramakrishna, when Chandramani and Rameshwar, to their deep distress, received the news of her son's, that is Gadadhar's, insanity. They would believe what rumors were being spread in Kamarpuku. It is said that misfortune never comes alone. Misfortunes of all sorts come from all directions, one after another, covering human life with deep darkness sometimes. This is exactly what happened in the lives of Chandramani and Rameshwar. Chandra had born her youngest son when she was advanced in years. That is, Ramakrishna was born when she was quite old. And so he was very dear to her. Overwhelmed with grief and anguish, she had Gadadhar brought back home. She grieved when she saw her son's indifference to worldly matters and his restlessness for God, and heard him crying piteously, Mother, Mother. She tried various remedies from regular medicine. Of course, this is before he married. This is before his marriage. As I said, he was observing, obviously, he was observing celibacy before or after marriage. So these events took place. So she brought so many tantrics. They thought some evil spirit has possessed my Gadadhar, and she believed everyone who gave free advice to her. And some would say, you call this magician, that magician, they will remove all the spirits. Why is he behaving like this for mother and God and all? They didn't realize that he was yearning for God. These events took place towards the end of 1858. So, after the master returned home, he generally behaved normally. Sometimes, however, he would cry out for the Divine Mother. When he was Dakshineshwar, he used to behave like this, but normally when he came home, he would behave naturally or normally. Sometimes, however, he would cry out for the Divine Mother, and sometimes he would go into ecstasy and lose outer consciousness. His behavior and deportment were sometimes like those of ordinary people, and sometimes he was quite unusual. On the other hand, he exhibited truthfulness, simplicity, devotion to God and his mother, and love for his old friends. On the other hand, he showed a complete indifference to other worldly affairs. He showed affection to his friends, no doubt, also to his mother, and his devotion to God, truthfulness, simplicity. He was not running after things. A longing for something unseen, an absence of shame, hatred, and fear, and an intense effort to reach the desired goal. This was misunderstood. Other characteristics are very common. There are enough people in the world who are truthful, simple, who are devoted to God, who are devoted to their mother, and also are happy with all their dear friends. But they are not indifferent to the worldly affairs. They want to earn money, have property, and all those things. But Sri Ramakrishna, he behaved like a normal being when it came to these simple things of life, simple living, high thinking. But when he longed for the vision of God, he behaved in what appeared to be abnormal for those people. So they naturally thought, like the superstitious village people would do, that a ghost has possessed him. So that is why this Chandra Devi, who was, of course, very simple hearted like Thakur, she also, listening to all the neighbors telling her, giving her advice, she heard the opinions of others and decided to engage an exorcist for the welfare of her son. She said, we'll pay money, but get someone to rid him of this ghost, which she thought was true. The master later told us. The Sri Ramakrishna was helpless because he did not want to disturb his mother. Okay, try whatever you want to do. So one day he says, an exorcist came, he burnt a lamp wick that had been sanctified by a special mantra and then made me smell it. He said, if you are possessed by a ghost, this will make the ghost run away. But nothing happened. Later, one night, some prominent exorcist performed worship and called down a spirit through a medium. These were very common. Even today, you will find some crazy people doing this. They accepted their worship and offerings and was pleased. The spirit, not they, the spirit accepted that. That's what is written here, and was pleased. Through the medium has to speak. The spirit normally speaks through a medium, a human medium who is normally very weak. Spirits can, they say, influence only weak minds. Strong minds they cannot enter. So anyway, whatever they, the medium said, the medium then told, you see, the spirit also understood this is not a ghost. He hasn't been possessed by a ghost and he is not suffering from any disease, physical or mental. Then it spoke to me in front of all. Gadai, if you want to be a holy man, why do you chew so many betel nuts? Betel nuts is what is known as supari. So, don't you know betel nuts make people lustful? It is true that I like betel nuts very much and used to chew them now and then, but I gave them up as the spirit advised me to do. You see, even if it was a spirit telling him, if he knew that what the spirit says may be true, it may affect the body, so he immediately stopped. He used to still eat betel leaves, but not the nut. The nut, supari, the ghost tells you are a holy man, don't take these things. So he just stopped as the spirit had advised him to do. So the master was then about to complete the 23rd year. That is when he was married. They were preparing for his marriage. Okay, there is no ghost. Or let us just marry him off, then maybe that will change his mind a little bit and he may focus on his worldly affairs. The master was then about to complete his 23rd year, and he has been in Kamarpukur for a few months, and he became normal to a great extent. Now he was specified by having repeated visions of the Divine Mother. As long as he had visions, he would not behave abnormally. It's only when they stopped, for some reason, he used to cry out and people used to misunderstand him. We got this impression from what his relatives told us about what happened at that time. We shall now narrate a few of those accounts. What happened when he came, why he appeared to be normal, how the vision started again, and all those things. So the master used to spend a good part of his time, day and night, in Bhutis Canal and Buduin Moral, two cremation grounds situated at the west and northeast borders of Kamarpukur. There are two cremation grounds. They are there even today. So it's an empty piece of land, and because it is a cremation ground, obviously children and other people were afraid to go there. So that was a very quiet place. Sri Ramakrishna used to go there. At that time, his relatives learned that an extraordinary power was manifesting in him. We heard from them that he would often offer food to the jackals and demigods who lived in those cremation grounds. As soon as he brought a new earthen pot filled with sweets and other food for the jackals, they would come from all directions and eat the offerings. And when he would offer another pot to the demigods, it would disappear into the air. It was strange, may not be true, entirely true, but Swami Shardanji says the village people told me later, this is what happened when he used to meditate there. Sometimes he would see those demigods and talk with them, the spirits. For some reason, they were forced to just have their habitation in those uh, cremation grounds. That is a place where all the spirits are burnt. I mean, the bodies are burnt, so the spirits are likely to be hovering around there. When Rameshwar found that his younger brother had not returned home once, even after midnight, he would go to the cremation grounds and call for him. He didn't have the guts to go near. Hearing his name, the master would answer in a loud voice, All right, brother, I am coming. But don't come any nearer. The spirits might harm you. He was very confident. He could sit and meditate. None of them would not only harm him, but they would get some benefit by his holy company. So during this time, the master planted a bale tree seedling in the cremation grounds of Bhutis Canal. He would spend a long time practicing japa and meditation under an old peepal tree. It is clear from the testimonies of his relatives that the terrible emptiness he had been experiencing as he pined for the visions of the Divine Mother was now relieved by some wonderful experiences and visions he had. So, though even that's why they say Shiva always meditates in the cremation ground. Ma Kali also, you can find her there. There is truth to this because there you get a lot of vairagya. And the spirits, though they may be spirits of dead people, they also may be conveying some ideas that this life is not, after all, so much of fun. So that gives you, that makes you less worldly. So that is why Shiva, very often, Shiva's very place of sadhana was a cremation ground. And that is why in the Smashan, Kali is also known as, Ma Kali is known as Smashana Vasini, one who stays in the Smashana. So naturally, he must have had lot of visions. Otherwise, why would he go there? And his craving and crying to the mother stopped. All of them, his relatives and other friends, they said he had lot of visions at that time. So as we study this period of his life, it seems clear that he was having almost constant visions of the Divine Mother. Her gracious form, consisting of pure consciousness, held a sword and severed head in her two left hands and bestowed blessings and fearlessness with her two right hands. So, two right hands. On one side, what the significance of these four arms of the Mother Kali, which looks horrible, because in one hand sword is there, and another hand the severed head of an evil person, and on the other two hands, one is blessing people, bestowing blessings, and also fearlessness. So, on one side, she destroys the ignorance, and through the other two hands, she imparts knowledge. That is the idea. So, whenever the master asked her a question, he received an answer and he molded his life according to that. It seems from then on, he was fully convinced that he would be blessed with the uninterrupted vision of the Divine Mother. So, and during this period, a small mention is made. We find during this period the master also developed the ability to see the future. Hriday and many people of Kamarpukur and Jairambati have testified to this, and the master also discussed it with us. The following examples will make it clear to the reader. I will just go through one example. Observing the master's behavior, how he could see the future, what would happen in his life and in others' life. And everything came proved to be true. So his mother and others realized that that insanity which they thought he had is gone to a large extent. They didn't understand that it was because of the visions of the Divine Mother which he had effortlessly without having had to cry for the mother. They thought he's no longer crying piteously and he was eating at appropriate times. Though now and then he would go into samadhi, which they could not understand. And many respects he was behaving like everyone else. However, he was still preoccupied with these divine beings, continued to visit cremation grounds, and he practiced meditation for long hours. So, if anyone tried to stop this behavior, he would disregard them. He would not listen to anyone. But the master had been acting in this odd manner for several years. So, his family did not regard this as a behavior which gives some sign of insanity. Still, they were concerned about his complete indifference to domestic affairs and his constant contemplative mood. They were anxious because they thought his insanity would return unless his mind was occupied by worldly affairs. That was their idea. They didn't realize that it is worldliness that may give rise to madness, not thinking of the Divine Mother. Anyway, to protect him from such a relapse, his loving mother and brother planned his marriage to a suitable girl. They reasoned that if he were in love with a good, beautiful, good natured girl from a noble family, his mind would then not be absorbed in spiritual matters. Rather, it would become engaged in improving his family's financial condition. But they knew Gadadhar would protest. His mother and brother consulted secretly so many houses. But it was not long before the intelligent Gadadhar discovered their plan. He accepted the idea without the least objection. They thought he will shout, and behaving like a child who made merry when there is a festive occasion in the family. Did the master express his joy in the planned marriage because he had Divine Mother's approval? This is the question. Maybe he asked the Divine Mother. She must have told, "Don't worry, your marriage will not stop your spiritual progress." So, or was it due to his boyish lack of foresight and thoughtlessness? This is the normal thing. They thought, oh, he's so childlike, so boyish, that now he has agreed for marriage. And then not only that, people would be sent to different villages saying that Gadadhar is to be married now, and they were looking for girls. Nobody could find it because of his age also, and because of some of the rumors that he was not a normal person. Nobody would like to give his girl. So very few girls were available, and they also demanded large dowries. Instead of the boys demanding, the boys, girls' family said, because of their financial condition, they would. So one day, Gadadhar was in an ecstatic mood, and we'll close by this discussion, close our discussion. He said in an ecstatic mood, "It is useless to search here and there. Just stop searching. You go to the family of Ramchandra Mukhopadhyay in the village of Jairambati. Fate has marked my would be bride with a straw. That means God has already decided you will find the girl there." So, without putting much faith in Gadadhar's words, his mother and brother sent someone. He said, "You just go, everything will be arranged." But they still had doubts. And to their shock, they found she was just 5 years old. So he said, maybe he has made a mistake. Must have referred to some, at least she should be older than that. She was just 5 years old. But as this girl had been discovered in an unexpected way, Chandra Devi agreed to marry Gadadhar to her. And then finally, on May 59, how the marriage took place, the divine marriage, which was instrumental in creating a great spiritual tradition, because of her young age she lived much more than master, and that suited the divine play, because after Sri Ramakrishna died, she practically for another 34 years, she according to the instructions of Sri Ramakrishna, who said, you have to do much more than what I did. So she did that. And that was the reason why the Divine Mother had chosen such a young girl. So we'll conclude if there are some questions. Today, I think all are busy. Yeah. Okay. So we'll conclude now. If there is a question, just. Yeah. You have questions? This is, we have to read this slowly, this great master, because there are so many things he has taken all this, written down all these things painstakingly, connecting this, that, past incidents, previous. Without this analysis, if you just read it as a story, we can't make out anything. There are other biographies which will say, oh, he was born, he was this thing happened, this. And finally, they will say, he passed away into Mahasamadhi. The shorter biographies will deal, that is why shorter biographies are not useful. This may be a little long, but it is worth reading. And you should read it with other books like Gospel and Srimad Darshan and other lives of direct disciples. Because then you get a complete picture. He didn't come for a specific purpose. There were so many purposes, and each one of his disciples fulfilled one purpose. Vivekananda fulfilled one. Shardanji's main purpose was to write this. If he had not written, nobody would have got this Bible. Because nobody bothered to, gospel would have been there. But I doubt if M would have been able to write a biography like this. Shardanji was actually what motivated him to write this was that some of the biographies which were written by some householder disciples, they were not very authentic, and they just used their imagination to write all sorts of things, which was not true, attributing a lot of miracles, which Swami Vivekananda did not like. He said, "Why do you write all these things? Miracles are not so important. It is his life, it is his message that is important." Yes, any question? Okay, so we'll conclude. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna